This is iMovie. When you first open it up, it'll come up with this sort of screen. If we choose Import up the top here, we can go to our file. And I've saved mine on my desktop. It's a good idea to save it to your desktop, although you will have to go to the same computer every time. Now if I click Import Selected, what this is actually doing is importing my video into my personal drive, so my Miss Gregory drive on our school network. So you need to make sure that after you've finished your project that you clear those files off, okay, that you actually delete them. So now I've got a 14-second clip of the quadcopter flying over the school, and so if I click and drag that down to the bottom here, I've now got 5.6 seconds of that. So if I want more, I can click and drag that out. But now I want to edit this footage. So with the footage selected, up the top over here you've got all these enhancement and adjust tools. So this one on the left is the white balance, or the color balance, and that means that things that should be white get turned white, and everything else gets adjusted to make that match. So you can do that with things like skin tone. Just play around with those, see what you think looks the best. Here you can correct the color, so you can bring things up, down. You can change the amount of color in it, so that's the saturation. We can also change the hue, so give that an overall effect. You can also crop your footage. Now it's a good idea to film in landscape in the first place, because that's how your video will be created, and if you film in portrait you'll end up with big black bars at the side. We can crop to fill, and so if I choose just that section, that's going to take it's going to fill up the whole thing once I press tick. Now there's a problem with doing that depending on how big your footage was in the first place. If you're only exporting this at 1280 by 720 resolution, and you'll understand what that means when we share it a bit later, but you've actually taken the footage in 1920 by 1080 resolution, then the box that I've selected here would probably still be about 1280 by 720, so you won't end up with any pixelation if you only export it at that lower render setting. If you did try and export it at the full render setting, then you would end up with pixelation, because you're only taking a small bit of it and enlarging it. This Ken Burns effect will move your footage over time, so that works well for still images but not so much for film. So we just want to choose fit there. This one here, stabilization. We can stabilize shaky video. So if you have taken your video just by hand and you were running through a forest, for example, you can actually change this or tick this stabilize shaky video. So if I click on that, it's going to analyze my video, and it'll take a little bit of time to do that. But then what it's going to do is it's going to pick out the points that aren't actually moving. So it's going to take these buildings that aren't moving, and it's going to try and stabilize the movement of my camera, shaking up and down. And let's see what sort of job has it done. Has it made it any smoother? Now this footage was pretty smooth to start with, given that the quadcopter has a stabilization thing on it anyway. So this was pretty smooth. It's been smoothed out even more. As soon as I move this up, you saw what happened to the frame there. It got larger. Depending on how shaky your video is in the first place, it may make that really large. So it's probably not something that you want to do too much. If your video doesn't need it, don't do it, because it will affect your overall effect. So that's pretty smooth. There is a little bit of wobble there, which disappears if I turn that up. So it probably is a good idea to stabilize that footage just a little bit. Rolling shutter is what you get with if you've got a GoPro. This looks okay to me, so I'm not going to bother fixing the rolling shutter. Here we've got audio. So for this particular video, this has got the sound of the quadcopter playing in the background, so I would want to turn that down. So that's now silenced that video, and I can put other clips in behind. I can also check lower volume of other clips, and what that will do is it'll make it go up and down. If I'm speaking on this video, for example, but I stop speaking for 10 seconds, the other clip behind that will go softer while I'm speaking, and then as soon as I stop speaking, it will return back to normal volume. So that's that lower volume of other clips button. Noise reduction, we can reduce background noise, so the computer will try and work out what is background noise and what isn't. Equalizer here, this is just like a little bit like your iTunes equalizer, where you can change the settings for that. This one here is cool. We can change the speed. So as soon as we go to slow here, you'll notice down the bottom that my timeline just got a lot longer, and there's a little picture of a tortoise. Okay, so we can change the speed of things down here or up here, and my footage will now be in slow motion. Now when that moves like that, it's actually trying to work out what the frames in between those frames look like, and so we want to try and avoid doing that. If you are going to use slow motion, try and set the camera up to take slow motion footage in the first place. You'll get a much better result. You can also reverse what it's doing, so now my quadcopter is going to fly backwards. And preserving pitch is when you reverse or change the speed of your video, the audio will generally get all messed up. So if you preserve pitch, it'll try and not make it that super high sound that you get when you speed it up. Just going to change that back to normal. And on here we can now choose a video effect. These are pretty cool. As soon as you choose them, you can get different effects. So if you put your mouse over them, you can see what they're like. And you don't want to do this too much. I mean, you can have too many effects on things, and if you do want to choose an effect, try and stick with the same one or two effects for the entire video. You don't want to make too many changes. I think that looks really cool. Something like the X-ray one looks really cool as well. So taking video footage like that will improve it. Then we've got information about your clip, and that's just telling me that that's the file, that's how long it works for. Now if I go into the Enhance tab here, that's showing me that I have changed these things. So they're all the settings for my clip. Next lesson we'll see how to join two clips together and how to transition between those.